everyone, my name is Paul Stark. I'm the Senior Audio Manager at ORION Audiobooks, and I'm going to be talking to you today from my kitchen table about understanding casting. So my team and I manage all of the publishing within ORION, and what we publish ranges from commercial and literary fiction through my personal favourite science fiction and fantasy to serious commercial and illustrated non-fiction. We cover a huge range of subjects and titles, and so we spend a lot of time casting all kinds of different projects as a result. So here we go. The first thing I'm going to say is, and I think it's the most obvious thing, we spend an awful lot of time reading manuscripts, both at the time they're being acquired, where we work with editorial, and later when they're just going into production and they're almost ready for narration. There's no better way to pick up the core requirements of casting than reading. And we're talking things like the age and gender of the voice needed, the accents and locales of the plot and characters, the tone of the book, the range in terms of geography, time and character elements, and just the number of readers. And so we form a kind of mental checklist of the core elements of the narration. And the first step is always to read the book and take notes of kind of against those key characteristics. Budget also comes into play at this point, but our priority is about getting the voice right, not getting the price right. Range is a key point I want to pick up and expand on there, as the number of characters in a book can have a dramatic impact on the direction we take casting. So we know that those kind of subtle vocal differences you use to differentiate between characters without resorting to caricature can kind of come differently to some readers than others. And again, the same goes for geographical range and regional accents. You want to avoid the book sounding like an episode of A Lower Low, unless of course that fits the tone of the project. So if the range of accents is particularly broad or indeed particularly focused, then we want to make sure we're getting those right at the point where we're very first starting to talk about casting. So I'd like to touch on authenticity here, as I know it's something of a controversial subject. So a key part of what we do in that initial reading, particularly at the point of acquisition process, and if the books have a really strong autobiographical strand or a particularly strong sense of place and community, is to make sure we're trying to cast from within that community or location. It's not always necessary. We're not trying to undervalue any reader's kind of skill and accuracy with different accents and voices, but just as it's really important that readers from all backgrounds and places have the chance to see themselves reflected in the books they read, it's also really important that listeners and authors can kind of get that same experience when listening to audiobooks. So this all comes from reading that manuscript really closely again and understanding the story behind the book and how it's come to be written. We work really closely with our colleagues in editorial to make sure we're getting that aspect of the casting right. From the non-fiction perspective, tone is vital. I think it goes without saying that the final book has to be engaging and really draw the listener in, but we have to make sure that we're doing that the right way and matching the tone of the content to the tone of the reader. So, for example, a popular science title will often need a lighter, kind of more upbeat, chatty style of reader, provided they're not making light of the content, compared with a serious history or memoir. And a more recent change to our casting process is that we're talking to readers and agents more to learn about their passions and areas of knowledge and interest outside of narration, because you never really know what kind of information can come in handy. I mean, we had quite a lot of experience and success with science fiction and fantasy publishing, and we knew that some readers really enjoy and really get into that kind of story. And you can hear that when you're listening. I mean, we always say that the listener can hear you smile when you're reading. So that was an area where we already had experience of this. But we've also recently been casting books about the history of man's relationship with dogs and conservation and gorillas in Rwanda and the history of the Rubik's Cube. And finding someone who's well versed in that subject area and has a real passion for it doesn't just make the preparation easier, but you can hear that smile in the narration. So I think that really covers everything from my perspective that I wanted to cover. To any readers watching, I'd say the most useful thing you could do for us is just be really open and honest when you're speaking to us, whether it's about your passions and interests or any genres that you really want to read or would rather not read, so we can make sure we're getting the best possible projects to you, or the more basic things like your availability and time for recording and prep, so we don't have to restart projects that perhaps have been taken on a bit over ambitiously. We won't count that against you when we're kind of casting future projects. It's a bit easier if we get that things all right up front. So thanks very much. Hope you've enjoyed watching, and hope to work with you all sometime in the future.